Number 3 game this year is actually the game that held the #1 spot for at least 5 to 6 months, maybe even longer than that, honestly. It was a game that wasn't even on my radar going into this year, but I think that's part of what made its story of success so great this year was none of us expected to have as much fun with this game as we did. I'm not really a competitive shooter type of guy, but I am always down for a cooperative experience, and you will not find a more fun co-op game, especially this year, than Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is basically what you get if the movie Starship Troopers was turned into a third-person cooperative extraction shooter. The story of this game is that you are a Helldiver and a soldier in the Super Earth Marine Corps, battling a war on 2 fronts against the Terminid bugs and the robots of the automatons. Both enemies provide different types of challenges that I'll get into later, but the basics of the game are diving into a planet with a mission to complete, and trying to extract off the planet after you succeed with as many samples and side objectives completed as you can. It's so simple, and that's part of what makes it so easy to jump into with friends, so let's get into it. The way you battle against these enemies are twofold: guns and grenades, and stratagems. The guns are really varied with your classic shotguns, assault rifles, pistols, SMGs, along with some weird ones like a electric poker or a gun that shoots grenades, or even healing options. There are also grenades that are explosive, fire, shock, or smoke. But the real magic comes in with the stratagems. You choose an arsenal of abilities that are as wide-ranging as a bubble shield backpack you carry, a charged rifle called the railgun, carpet bombs of artillery, napalm strikes, and a giant freaking laser beam that just melts your enemies away. Bringing a well-rounded arsenal of stratagems in your squad is crucial to succeeding on some of the tougher mission difficulties. These are all incredible in their own right, and even if you just pressed L1 and a D-pad button to call them in, they would be awesome. But that would be way too boring for Helldivers. In this game, you have to hold L1 and enter a sequence of D-pad inputs to call something down. It's so fun to memorize these sequences because some of them for the bigger explosions and bigger stratagems can be 5 to 6 buttons long, and you're just like, it's called the claw. Like, I wasn't planning on doing this, but like holding L1 and moving your other hand over to like tap out a little sequence feels incredible, especially when you nail it. But honestly, it's even more funny when you are being swarmed by things and you mess it up a couple times in a row. Like that feeling of like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like is so strong. It's this game is so good even when it's not going well. Speaking of mechanics and gameplay, you have a dive button in this game that provides never-ending fun. You can sprint forward and dive to get behind cover. You can dive backwards to shoot from your back to get away from enemies. And most importantly, you can dive off of cliff sides to avoid explosions that your friends most likely are directly responsible for. It never gets old diving and ragdolling your way out of, or hopefully directly into trouble. It's just flat out fun. I mentioned that it's a cooperative game, which is true, but there's also a, by default, and no way to turn it off, friendly fire in this game. Normally I would never in a million years want this to be there, but when shit has officially hit the fan, it both adds to the strategy, but more importantly, the chaos of a battle. The idea of the game is you are an expendable soldier fighting for liberty and for Super Earth, so it honestly fits the theme to not care at all if your friends are a little too close to a swarm of Terminids or a big Hulk from the automatons. If you're just in the way, like I'm sorry, but also not sorry, like this napalm strike has to kill these bugs. And if you're a little too close, like I don't know what to say. Let's dive into the 2 enemy factions a little bit here, starting with the Terminids. I mentioned that these are bugs, and they are the scariest when their numbers just overwhelm you. On a single enemy basis, a Terminid is easier to kill than an automaton, but you'll quickly have 12 of these bastards on you if you're not careful. Bug missions also involve destroying nests of eggs or destroying these spore clouds that can be spawn points for really tough bugs, including flying ones. There are missions that aren't specific to an enemy type too, like killing a set number of enemies, launching a missile, finding special samples, and many more. It's a good idea to bring more area of effect type stratagems against the bugs, but they still have some massive bugs to deal with. Chargers are basically rhino bugs covered in thick armor you need to blast or explode away. There are these giant tentacles that come out of the ground that prevent you from retreating from a battle. They have these fat bugs called bile spewers that just puke this nasty green goo all over you that can just melt your health away if you can't dive out of the way in time. But the biggest, baddest bug of them all is the Bile Titan. It's a massive, multi-story tall bug that also spits that green goo, has massive legs that will crush you if you get too close, and an armored body and legs to get through. The fear that sets in when you turn around and see one of these guys in the distance is so much fun. Now, the automatons. These guys, in my opinion, are much tougher but more fun to deal with than the Terminids. The bugs are primarily melee attackers outside of the goo boys, and the automatons have endless amounts of guns and rockets and flamethrowers to just ruin your day. These guys have more armor than the bugs, so you might need a little more firepower for all of them, and explosions, especially more targeted ones, work great against them. They have scout striders that look straight out of Star Wars, berserkers that can charge you with chainsaw hands, full-blown tanks, and even dropshits that can be just how reinforcements come in, but can also fire back and follow you around. Hulks are the worst, however. They look like giant metal Gangars with either flamethrowers or rockets that need to be blown up or shot in their weak spots on their backs to destroy. Pro tip, let one of your fellow Helldivers lead them away and have someone flank them, even if it means sacrificing one of your lives for the better of Super Earth to do it. Current day Alex jumping in. Yet again, another update to one of these games has happened after I wrote my script. The Game Awards have happened, and during the Game Awards, they announced the new big content update to Helldivers that included a third faction of enemies that were in the original game called the Illuminate, these alien zombies basically. And the stinger at the end of it was out now. And I was like, oh my god, it's here. I've only gotten to play about 3 hours of it with Austin last night as of recording this. Very, very fun. They're kind of like the Terminids in a way where it's more the numbers that make them scary, but just mowing them all down or bringing some fire to blast them away. Plus they have these giant harvesters that have like laser beam eyes and a bubble shield you have to break through first. They're a really cool third enemy to fight to vary up the combat a little bit. And it feels like just the perfect excuse to get back into the game. So if you haven't played in a while, come back and check it out and fight some Illuminate. They're really fun. Regardless of enemy types, Helldivers 2 shines in presenting you with a situation that at first glance feels impossible to survive. But if you have a decent plan and play smart, you realize you pulled it off barely, making you feel like you went into a suicide mission and lived. This feeling will happen multiple times in every single mission and is truly intoxicating. But the game seems to balance the difficulty perfectly every time. It always feels like you just barely escape no matter what. It's the best feeling in the game I've had in a long time when you extract at the last minute with 50 bots closing in on you and you get out of there with 15 juicy samples, a currency you find while exploring the planet you are on. I'm going super long in this one, but I just can't help it. I could go on more about the details of this game for hours, but honestly, the best part of Helldivers 2 is the social aspect. I am almost always a solo gamer, and this was a rare game that got me playing with friends. This is a game that you can play solo or with randoms online, but I can't stress enough how much fun it is playing with your friends in voice chat. I got to play this game with Josh and Billy, who I've loved dearly for years, and had a whole lot of fun playing with them. 2024 was also the year that I really made a great new friend in Austin, who we played countless hours of duos of this, just talking about life and our interests, especially board games, which we bonded over a lot on. Playing with Austin also introduced me to Darius and Rich and some other buddies of his. Just talking and playing a great game with a lot of people this year was a lot of fun. If you've watched my list in past years, once we get to this point of the list, it's always something outside of the game itself that ends up separating the really great games of every year. And for Helldivers, this social aspect was that extra oomph that really put it over the top of a lot of other games. Helldivers 2 brought me closer to some of my people in my life that, as we all get older and have adult stuff, we just don't have as much time as we would like to. And Helldivers 2 was that avenue this year, and I'm so grateful for it. I love this game so much, and I know I hadn't been playing it for a while. Hopefully that brand new update that came in just in time will give us even more reasons to dive back in and fight for Super Earth. And not just for Super Earth, but as we all know, we're out here fighting single moms everywhere.
Get inside there!
Go to the thing. Just go to the fucking thing.
They should.
We got this!
They should shoot.
Oh, don't.
No.
Keep moving.
We got this!
No fucking way! Open up, please!
Stay there. Dive. Go.
No! Oh my god! Oh,
That was outstanding.
oh
My
my!
heart hurts.
My chest is about to explode.